on in the body. Nutrition. Go to that extreme. It's important. All right, welcome. Thanks everybody for coming. Fasting deficiency, I never really did a lecture on this. I never really understood it. Most people didn't understand it. It was always a religious thing. Whatever religion you are, there was some, connotations to fasting and good spirituality. But in the last 2 or 3 years, they've come out with some real good research to explain why fasting can help with various parts of your health that I'm going to go into. This is a simplified fast. This fast is probably the most tolerable because we're not going to be refraining from any food for certain periods of time. But I'll show you one research article very soon that actually the results are pretty stunning, and we don't realize how much we depend on other people for our health when the answers are right in front of us and we can kind of take control of our own health. People don't realize that. So I'd rather be in control of my health than turn my health over to the medical establishment. The medical establishment doesn't even recognize fasting, but the research does. So they probably can't make any money off of it. I don't know. That's probably the bottom line. So let's start. I always put this, if people can just understand this concept, the leading cause of disease is basically poverty of food in the world. I mean, it's basically without food, you got malnourishment. With malnourishment, you have low immune system or immune dysfunction. It's that simple. It's not complicated. There's not a lot of drug deficiencies. We know vitamin A is probably the biggest deficiency in the world. Vitamin A helps regulate T cells. Vitamin A helps regulate the gut and GI tract for digestion. I mean, it's a very simple concept, and people don't understand that people are actually dying on the other side of the world because they have a vitamin A deficiency, not because they're, antibiotic deficient. So, huge concept if you can grasp that. 21-day purification program, basically 21 days, good detox, good ways to clean yourself out. It's all natural. Standard Process has a great program. I've done it, probably twice. Just to reset your sensitivity to foods, clean out your liver, gallbladder, kidneys, GI tract. All purification stuff. So I just wanted to, people are at different times in their life, probably not the best time to do a purification program in the summer because people are eating out and drinking and all kinds of stuff. Hair analysis, I always recommend people get a hair analysis. Hair is a good forensic tool to find out what's going on in the body, whether it's digestion, heavy metals, arsenic, lead, mercury, cadmium, and aluminum. Those are your those are your 5 heavy metals that you should probably focus on. These other ones can be affected, but getting a hair analysis is a real great forensic tool. We use it in forensics. I thought this was kind of funny because of the chiropractic joke, but pain starts in my husband's low back, then travels up his spine to his neck, then comes into his mouth and into my ears. That's why I get these headaches. Cute comment. This lecture, kind of like a disclaimer, this lecture is about utilizing the knowledge from research, experience, and common sense to combine exercise, fasting, and supplementation to optimize the recovery and regeneration of the body to resist disease and degeneration. You were just in Germany. I believe this was in Germany. I picked this out because this is funny because I thought This 91-year-old lady thought this was a crossword puzzle. She filled it out in the museum and actually ruined this piece of artwork for almost $100,000. She's 91, but if you look, it said the instructions on the piece of artwork were insert the words. So she was just following directions. So I thought that was kind of funny. When my doctor looks at my gut, I refuse to believe that I work out. I list my exercises. Jumping to conclusions, climbing the walls, dragging my heels, pushing my luck, making mountains out of molehills, bending over backwards, running around in circles, foot in the mouth, going around the edges, and beat around the bush. Okay? So, we've all said things like that. We've all made excuses. Just part of life. We do blood work out of the office. These are the main profiles. Hormone profile. I work with a co-op service, so we get good prices on blood work. I do a hormone. I mean, I have everything, you know, at whatever you want to do, but these are the main ones. Heart profile, lipid, general health panel. General health panel runs about 100 hours. You get about 65 different things. Urine analysis, CBC, lipid profile. And then I do an extensive health plan, or a health panel that probably is about 300, 400 hours, and it does probably about 100 things, 150 things. So good to look at. And then here's something that's coming up in our office, July 27, 2016. That's out of my office. Infrared mammograms. Mammograms are very too much radiation. People don't realize radiation is a cumulative effect. We get a lot of radiation. We get radiation flying up in the sky in planes. Radiation's a big issue. I remember there was an article probably 6 months ago where they had to take all the radiation detectors in the cities down because they were going all off. And there wasn't anything wrong with the radiation detectors, which they said, well, there's a problem with them. You know, but they never stated what the problem was. But radiation is a big part of our life, but doing mammograms over time puts you at risk for breast cancer, especially if you have certain BRCA1, BRCA2 genes, all those genes. So what we offer in our office is the scans for thermal scans or infrared scans. Most people don't know that there's about 340 millirads of radiation per mammogram. When you fly, you are about 5 milligrams of radiation. When you take a chest x-ray, you're at 16 millirads of radiation. So in one mammogram, you probably exposed yourself, if you divide that by 16, what is that? 12 chest x-rays, just by doing one localized mammogram to the breast. That's a lot. So that kind of puts it in perspective. If you go, I have a form over there. These are done out of our office. I've been doing hormone lectures probably, I've done 5 or 6 of them. I've been in practice probably for about 18 years now. It's a good way. People don't realize you can tell 8 years ahead of time if there's an issue. When you do a mammogram, you're looking at a progressive process of almost 40% before you can even see the tumor formation. So you're already 40% behind the ball when you're looking for tumors or cancer or stuff like that. So mammogram gives you a good indication. You're not going to have growth without a vascular supply. It's that simple. So this kind of gives you a heads up on a vascular supply to a target area that's in the breast that you can look into further. Maybe you want to do an ultrasound, maybe you want to do an MRI. But that's the process I like to take with this type of technology. This first, it's cheap, it's non-invasive, it's not toxic, there's no radiation, Then if you need an ultrasound to recheck it, that's great, and then you can move on to the MRI if there's an issue with the ultrasound. So it's a better way to do things without exposing yourself. Here's a daily protocol, supplementation. I have this on the wall, I put it up all the time. This one I'm going to be talking about today. Because of fasting, this is a cool thing that you might want to consider along with fasting, and you'll understand why before you leave. Truth in labelings. People have to be accountable for the supplements that are put out, for the things that are the plants that they use, the species they use, the percentages, the compositions, everything. That needs to be accountable, and there's not accountability in America. So we make sure that everything that's on the bottle is in the bottle, and you know exactly what you're getting. And MetaHerb is from Australia, so if you get a product, and you buy a product from MetaHerb, you know in order for that product to come into the United States, it has to pass the FDA. And that FDA has to approve that as a drug standard. So you need the percentage of the active ingredient, what you started with, what you finished with, and the type of species it is. So they treat it like a drug when it comes in the United States. So they're not going to get away. So MetaHerb is not going to put something on the label. It's not, because it'll never pass the FDA to come into the United States. So there's very few companies that do. There's a couple companies that do that, but I don't know for sure if they do it or not. I know they say they do. So I just want to be, I want you to make you confident when you're getting something out of our office. It's truthful and it's factual. That's what I want to say. I'm sure we all met people like this. We really did. They own their disease. You can't really own your disease. It's not good for you. This, I read this and I thought to myself, because people are like, oh yeah, I have MS. I'm on the MS blog. I post things on MS, and I got MS. And that, I mean, if I said MS the amount of times it's MS, I get MS. Okay? So, you know, there's nothing wrong with a diagnosis, a doctor, but owning it, I refuse to do that. And it should be, it shouldn't be harped on, because there's a lot of good things out there. And most of those blogs wouldn't be going unless we were doing things right with the research and with what's going on around us. There's plenty of good education and knowledge to change disease in America. 96 food group from Spot of Blood. Anybody has any food sensitivities, food intolerances? This is not an anaphylactic or a IgE test. This is IgG, IgM. IgE is mostly anaphylactic, where, you know, foods, you already know that. If you eat something, and, you know, it's like a bee sting. These are foods you might not pick up. Headaches, low-grade fevers, not sleeping at night, PMS, you know, itchiness, skin rash, stuff that you wouldn't think about. They're intolerances to the immune system, but they're showing symptoms, and it might not be seen as serious, but it could lead into something. Webpage, there's my webpage, drkrygier.com. I'll probably post these slides. Okay, Hyaline Cartilage. I want to talk about this real quick. Hyaline Cartilage is the most abundant of the three types of cartilage. This is the most critical thing, because I deal with the musculoskeletal system, because chiropractic. Degeneration in the joints is huge, and it all happens from the hyaline cartilage. Hyaline cartilage is the tissue that actually allows sliding and gliding of the joints. A lot of times with traumas, injuries, we get fraying of that cartilage, and those microfibers, actually with that fraying, the immune system starts to attack those fibers. So I put this up there because a lot of people are suffering from this. Okay? We're malnourished, we're over-exercising. People over-exercise 6-7 days a week. You know, I know people that run 70, 80 miles a week. I mean, eventually that's going to affect your joints. Okay? So I put this up there because I have an easy way to support this. And I want to show you how I do it. John, can you stand up for a second? Come on over here. Now, when somebody comes into the office and they say, my shoulders bother me, okay? I use a system called contact reflex analysis. It basically uses your energy to your body, and it tells me how severe the problem is. Is it acute? Is it chronic? So what I do is, if John says, God, my shoulder's killing me, first thing I want to know is, can I adjust it, and is it degenerated? That quick. Is there enough damage there where if I adjust it, can I bother it or irritate it or cause a problem, or can I adjust it and it be fixed correctly? Okay? This is how I tell. Put your arm up, hold as strong as you can. This is a check. You can do this on every single joint of the body. Hold the shoulder, positive, hold the shoulder, negative. See how weak that goes? When it's positive, that means that, and it goes down, that means he needs to be adjusted. The energy that runs through the shoulder and the connection through the shoulder tells me that when it's positive, it's a misalignment. When he tests negative over it, he's weak, tells me he's got degeneration in shoulder. So John just came in and just 2 seconds, pushing his arm down, testing positive or negative. I just told him what I could do for him. Negative means he's going to have to do something for the hyaline cartilage because an adjustment's not going to help him. And he's eventually going to be in his orthopedist having to do something to fix the shoulder, shave the shoulder, clean the shoulder, whatever you need to do. But you can do this on the hips, you can do this on the knees, anything. That's how I test in my mind when somebody comes into the office and they have a misalignment, whether it's cervical, lumbar, ankle, toe. I always test that positive for misalignment, negative for degeneration. That's simple. And it works all the time. Thank you. So what I could do is with John, now I know the shoulder's degenerated. Now I can put him on something that I know is going to help restore that cartilage. And that's one of the things. Any area of degeneration you can work on. It's never a lost cause. You were developed in 9 months embryonically. It's not a lost cause for regeneration, for recovery, and for joints to come and fix themselves. They probably won't be, they probably won't be back to like you were 18, but I see too many surgeries, I see too many issues with these problems, and nobody's really addressing them, and they're just kind of pushing them along. Here's your knee replacement, or here's your hip surgery. This is one of the things, probably one of my best products, is trachea. Trachea, it's cytozyme trachea. Trachea is actually the hyaline cartilage is made in the trachea is hyaline cartilage. So when you take trachea, you're taking all the hyaline cartilage of all the facet joints, top joint, bottom joint, for every spinal vertebra, also the shoulders and everything. So trachea is probably one of my best products. It's probably 13, 14 times stronger than every shark cartilage. You're like, well, how come sharks don't get cancer? Because trachea or cartilage regulates vascular epidermal growth factor, which has to do with making blood vessels. So that's why sharks don't get cartilage. Or that's why sharks don't get cancer, because they're all cartilaginous. So that helps regulate blood supply in the body. It's interesting. When I learned, when I was in my radiology class, cancer never grows across the bone. never grows from one bone to the next through the gapping of the bone. It's always in that bone. It's always on the top. It never grows from one top of the bone to the top of the other, or to the bottom of the other bone. It just doesn't happen. And I think it's because of the cartilage that separates it, because it can't get a vascular supply. So, B Vital I use for testosterone, growth hormone. But I just wanted to go over that real quick because I deal with a lot of people with musculoskeletal issues. Now, this is very important. This is the main gist of this whole lecture. Prolonged fasting reduces IGF-1 and PKA. Just bear with me, PKA, it's basically just a pathway to promote stem cell-based regeneration and a reverse immune system. This is very important. This is when in Cell to Stem Cell Abstract, what was the date on this? I think it's 2014. But basically, hemopoietic stem cell protection has to do with your cells in your blood. White blood cells, red blood cells. It actually is the phase of developing those cells. So basically, in prolonged fasting, it actually helped these stem cells regenerate. Isn't regeneration like a good thing? Because as we get older, we slow down regeneration. So in this case, fasting blocked IGF-1. IGF-1 is very important. It's called insulin growth factor 1. It's important because it has to do with sugar. Cookies, candies, cakes, pastries, pastas. You cannot regenerate your body in an effective manner when you're eating carbohydrates, mostly your fast-acting carbohydrates. They all interfere and allow this pathway, and you can't regenerate your stem cells. You have to have conditions to put your body in to stimulate and regenerate cells. So cookies, candies, all your fast-acting sugars, anything that was going to raise or stimulate insulin suppresses your regenerative process and your stem cell activation to create new tissue and new cells. Okay? So the diet that I'm talking about is based on regulating your insulin levels. You have to regulate your insulin levels. If you don't regulate your insulin levels, I mean, look around. I mean, diabetes, cancer, you know, like I talked about MS, autoimmune diseases, they're all, Alzheimer's is a big insulin sensitivity issue up in the brain now, they're saying. So regulating insulin is everything. Okay?
Dr. Kramer?
Yeah.
If you go back to the one slide on those pills, how do you think that compares to the Vitanax when you were stating that for the cancer?
This is for, I know what you're, Vitanax is for chemicals, to push chemicals out of your body.
Right.
Like hairsprays and pesticides and all that stuff.
Okay.
Cytosine trachea is actually to stop growth of vascular tissue. So it's used in a different way. It's one of the traits you can use it for. I use it to help regrow hyaline cartilage.
So you should probably use them both then, once you put that in the Vitanax.
Yeah, I'm not building a cancer protocol here.
I know,
But I'm just saying that it's an integral part of a program if you had cancer to add to it, just like Vitanax would be. So basically what they did was they did use chemotherapeutics or chemotoxicity for cancer, and they realized that when the person they tested in this study fasted 3 days before they got the chemotherapy, they were like bulletproof. They had increased in bone marrow, they had increased in resistance, even though they were using toxic chemicals. Because, I mean, you pour chemotherapeutics on the ground here, put a hole in the floor. That's how toxic they are. So when they fasted 3 days, it put the body in a situation where they could resist all the toxicity. Hey, Mom, I can get you a PDF for it. You don't have to. I'll get you all of it.
Thank you.
Okay? So,
Just email it to all of us.
so it basically improved the immune system even though they were given these chemotherapeutics, which is kind of interesting. Basically what happens is aging and chemotherapy, when you eat, you raise IGF-1 and PKA, feeding. When you eat or aging or chemical toxicity or any type of damaging process, you lower your white blood cell count, and you have all these other cells, they're lopsided. When you fast, you lower IGF-1, PKA, and then you also help all the hemopoietic regeneration. I mean, it doesn't get any easier than that. That's the science. There's also a, I don't want to, those two are big ones, but there's other ones called a TOR pathway that has to do with certain genes, and suppressing that TOR pathway actually creates longevity and aging. The leader of the study, which we just went over, Valter Longo, explains significantly these findings. He basically said, now if you start with a system heavily damaged by chemotherapy or aging, fasting cycles can generate literally a new immune system. That's like a new drug, but there's nothing there. So I thought that was cool. This was a little snippet, just a different way. You get immunosuppression from chemotherapeutics. This is just another balanced way with prolonged fastings and refeeding cycles. You know, we're kind of feasting all the time. We got drugstores down the street. We got grocery stores. There's very few times that we actually get, you know, into a famine situation. But our immune systems are designed to be a teeter-totter. If we get stuck in the feast system, we get a lot of allergies, we get a lot of molecular mimicry of foods, we get a lot of sensitivities, because we're always presenting the same proteins to the immune system. The immune system doesn't like to see the same things all the time. So feast creates allergies, creates diabetes. Famine actually balances that out. There's two systems in the body. Famine kind of activates the sympathetic system, and feast activates the parasympathetic. Parasympathetic is feeding, breathing, digestion, rest, all that stuff. Famine is getting your sympathetic. That's when you go out and you try to hunt and gather, and you're like, if you come home with nothing, you're really in a famine. So our body's built to balance those two systems and not just run one way or the other way. It's a balance. And if you can get that balance correct, you can change your weight, you can change your immune system, you can change your recovery timing and ability. All those issues can be fixed if you can implement. What I'm going to talk about is Dr. Michael Mosley. He's out of Britain. All the sources are from the UK, when you'll see all the sources. But basically, it's the fast diet, and it's a 5-2 diet because 5 days of the week are normal eating. You eat normally, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that usually, for most people, equals about 2,000 calories, 2,200 calories. Okay? While the other two restrict calories to 500 to 600 per day. This diet is actually more of eating pattern than a diet. There are no requirements about which foods to eat, but rather when you should eat them. Okay? So what you want to do is you always want to stagger your 2 fasting days. So you always want a normal day, and then on one side you want your calorie restriction. On the other side, you want a calorie restriction. You always want to divide your calorie restriction days, however you want to make it. Maybe you want a 4-3. 4 days of eating, 3 days of fasting. You do every other day of fasting. But it's not really a fast because you're getting, women are going to do 500 calories, men are going to do 600 calories. And it's a simple concept. A lot of these fasting diets compromise muscle mass, which is a big issue. Most of your calorie restriction diets cannot be continued without you losing muscle mass or muscle fiber, which you do not want to lose muscle mass when you're on any type of diet. So this spares it. This says on the other 2 days, you reduce your calorie intake to 1/4 of your daily needs. It's about 500. So if we said 2,000, 2,200, that's about 500 calories per day for women and 600 for men. It's always a discrimination issue there, isn't there? Basically, you could choose whichever 2 days of the week you prefer, as long as there's at least one non-fasting day in between. A common way of planning the week is to fast on Mondays and Thursdays with 2 or 3 small meals, then eating normally for the rest of the week. It's important to emphasize eating normally. Does not mean you can eat literally anything. If you binge on junk food, then you probably won't lose any weight or may even gain weight. We're not really doing this for weight. We don't care about weight. We care about regenerating our bodies. We care about resetting our immune systems. The weight will come off. It's proven that there's no way it can't come off. You should eat the same amount of food as if you haven't been fasting at all. Here's an example. This would probably be the easiest, and I would probably do it on a day that you're working, because who wants to think? Wants to sit around and think? Most of the time we're sitting around, and there's no way we can't, visit the refrigerator when we're watching TV or doing something. I know I can't. So these 2 days during the week are probably the most ideal, other than, I wouldn't do it on the weekend. This 5-2 diet, after 12 weeks, basically they lost 5 kilograms. 5 kilograms is about 11, 12 pounds. So they reduced fat mass by 3.5 kilograms. There's no change in muscle mass, which is good. It reduced blood levels of triglycerides by 20%, which is real good. And it increased LDL particle size. And then it reduced levels of C-reactive protein, which is an inflammatory marker in the body that's pretty important. It decreased the level of leptin. Lepto basically means thin, Greek word for thin. Leptin, when it increases leptin, that means you have more satiety. You're not always craving foods. So it increased your function of craving foods and reduced that by almost 40%, which is kind of cool. The opposite of leptin is ghrelin. Most people, I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's basically ghrelin. That's the one that makes you hungry. Okay. All that's regulated by the hippocampus and up in the hypothalamus, up in the brain with your cortisol levels and estrogen and insulin and all that stuff. So it gets quite complicated. So this really simplifies it. And without anybody ever having to explain that, people got results. It was kind of neat. Here's some other research that came up for intermittent fasting changes in the body. Basically, insulin levels drop significantly, 20 to 30% reduction. That's a lot. Human growth hormone, which everybody is starving from. They don't have any human growth hormone because when insulin goes up, human growth hormone goes down. It's a big teeter-totter. So when they did this, That was a huge increase. It's anywhere from 500 to 200% or 2,000% in human growth hormone, which is big. If you don't have human growth hormone, you're not building muscles, you're not burning fat. It's that simple. So, gene expression, like the chemotherapeutics, when they gave them chemotoxicity, basically the fasting helped them detoxify the body so that they didn't have immune complications. Weight loss increased metabolic rate, it lowered blood pressure, triglycerides, inflammatory markers. I like this brain-derived neurotrophic protein, which is basically, that's a big one up in the brain for focus, concentration. That helps dendrites, axons, all those transmission of signals. That one's a huge one for Alzheimer's and anybody that has any type of memory, dementia, anything. That brain-derived neurotrophic protein is the big one. Some studies show that rats on every other feeding day route lived almost 80% longer. Here's I put this in here. I tell people you can't skip breakfast. If you skip breakfast, you're probably skipping the advantages of the very thing you're trying to go for. 35% of obese individuals skip breakfast. That's because they never break a fast. They're just always in a fast. And you can't be in a fast too long, because then what happens is you become cortisol resistant. When you become cortisol resistant, now your blood sugar starts to spike all over during the day. So you got to reset that. So don't load up on carbs in the morning. Make sure that you eat proteins. This is perfect amino. I just put this in there because of proteins, just to show you. Branched chain amino acids from your local health food store gives you about 1% absorption. So you basically just wasted your money. Whey and soy proteins give you about 18%. That's how much is absorbed. So you lost 82% of your money instead of 99. And then meat, poultry, fish, 32%. So your digestion is not as efficient as you think it is. So really your body might be regulating it for fasting anyway. Egg protein, which is a perfect protein, was 48%. This amino acid that we use here, this perfect amino, is pre-digested. 99% of it is digested, and it only has 1 kilocalorie as opposed to 4 kilocalories for protein. It only has 1. So it's more of a recovery protein. I had this up because I talked about it. They showed that using good protein, and if you can cross the brain barrier, it will help heal concussions up in the brain. So any trauma in the brain, autism, anything like that, it is the perfect amino. It's not perfect because it's 99%. So it's 1% less than perfect. But yeah, good on fasting states. If you're not getting enough protein, you can supplement with that and not worry about pushing over your calories and still getting the pre-digested proteins. Here's a focus on nutrition. You want to make sure you do high fiber, high protein foods that will make you feel full without consuming too many calories. Basically, vegetables, yogurts, boiled or baked eggs, grilled fish and lean meat, cauliflower rice soups, low calorie cups. These are on just 2 days of the week. Doesn't get any easier than that. There's Jane's black coffee. There's tea. And then, your water stuff. Here's a sample of 500 to 600 calorie dish for breakfast. Raisins, Greek yogurt, almonds. That's around just under 100 calories. You got your breakfast, 94 calories for spinach almond. So that's a good breakfast, not a real high calorie for those 2 days. Here's a lunch idea. There's a lunch, 170 calories, crushed new potatoes and shoots, or chicken mismo soup. I like the soups, vegetable beef, chicken, the vegetable beef. The soups I like is they're already broken down, they're already pre-digested. So you're not using a lot of energy to process those. And you get more of a benefit and your body can rest more. Here's a dinner profile on those 2 days. Chinese vegetable chow mein. Here's a Moroccan root tang with couscous. So just an idea. The spinach and egg, you can have egg. I eat eggs at night. I love eggs at night. Get my protein before I go to bed. So here's some snacks. 2 tangerines, 20 chocolate-covered raisins, 20 black cherries, calories. Those are simple, easy ones. They're not modified. They're not synthetic. They're good. Yeah.
So on the fasting day, chocolate, sugar, that's cool?
Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what you eat, as long as it's
20
calories and it's from a good source. Raisins are good for you.
Okay. The chocolate around them is too?
Yeah, chocolate's very good. Yeah.
The raisinettes, or does it need to be good, better chocolate than that?
No, you could probably get away with those. Just 20 of them, though. And this just gives you an idea. You can do whatever you want. The calories are in front of you. I'm not a calorie counter or a calculator, but there's a lot of good foods out there, and there's a lot of choices. People just don't realize it. And people just are not taking advantage of a little bit of time. This is basically all if you go to these sites, the UK, these are all UK because it's a British doctor that created the fasting diet. Now, people that can't do this are eating disorder people that have really high and low blood sugar issues, which I don't think there's going to be any issue. Pregnant women, obviously, you don't want to do any diets in pregnancy. Nursing, teenagers, children, I don't know why they'd be doing it anyway. And then malnourished, underweight, have no nutrient deficiencies, or women trying to conceive or have issues with fertility. So those people you shouldn't go forward with this. Now, if you're doing a fasting, you're doing a 5-2 fasting. Another way to restrict calories, and this was basically calorie restriction like effects of 30 days using resveratrol. Okay, basically the active component in your chocolate, in your wines, in your mostly it's in wines, chocolates. I got a whole list of it, but you only get like 1 milligram. You do 1 glass of wine, so you could be a drunk and you're not going to get the effects of the resveratrol due to the amount of the alcohol. So, but they found that anytime you use anywhere from 200 to 900 milligrams of the resveratrol, it acted as if your body was in a fasting state of reducing your calories by 25%, which is a lot. So you can see how adding something as simple as this with the fast would really pull your weight down and really cause a regenerative process in your body. Dr. Sinclair did all the research on resveratrol. It's been around for a while. It's just I don't think people know how to use it. It's just not, they don't realize the implications and the help of it. It is a longevity. It is a age prolonging nutrient because of this pathway here. Certain one's a big pathway for calorie restriction. That's why these people go on these diets and try to live to their centurions and all this. But you could do it on a simple 5-2 with an additional calorie restriction thing, and you could be very healthy. And you know, if your health was a carnival, that's what I would say is you'd have a good immune system, you'd have a good sugar profile, you have good lipid profiles. So let me show you what else. Calorie restriction and resveratrol promoted longevity through the SIR2-in-1 dependent induction of autophagy is basically detoxification. Your body's cleaning out itself. So anytime you do calorie restriction or you're helping your body detoxify in certain ways. So autophagy is basically detoxification. We conclude that autophagy is universally required for lifespan prolonging effects of caloric restriction and the pharmacological SIR2-1 inactivator. So basically, SIR2-in-1 activator is your resveratrol. There's a couple different ones out there also, which I'm going to tell you about. Silymarin, everybody heard of milk thistle? Milk thistle, there's silybin and silymarin. There's different components, but if you're just doing a milk thistle and it has silymarin in it, just taking silymarin over 4 months, that's your hemoglobin A1C levels were decreased. Your fasting blood glucose decreased by 15%. This isn't changing anything. This isn't changing your diet or anything. This is like this is like a direct connection of taking this and it affecting your gene profile. It's as simple as that. Total cholesterol 12, LDL 12, and then triglycerides, which was big for silymarin because we all know that milk thistle is great for liver function. And liver function and triglycerides have a lot to do with each other and storage of glycerol. So that was pretty neat.
How much do you have to have?
Yeah, you get it's anywhere. There's different levels, but I'm only recommending a low dose with the program consistently over a 12-week period. Korean ginseng is another cool product. It's probably one of my favorite. It's kind of funny. I went to 12 Oaks Mall and I was going to get one of those shakes, those protein shakes over there by J.C. Penney's where you eat over there. And the lady's like, "Do you want some ginseng in it?" And I'm like, "Sure, yeah, that'd be great." I go, "Which one is it?" She's like, "Well, we only have one." I'm like, "Well, which one is it?" There's about 7 or 8 different ginsengs. So this one's Korean ginseng, or Panax ginseng. That's the other name for it. But basically, it helped reduce your insulin levels by 34%. That's how all these specific herbals that help with that, they all are regulating insulin. That's how nature designed it. Because they knew that insulin was going to be a problem. Because it balanced out the equation. In the placebo group, their insulin only dropped 10%. What was that? But 34%, pretty significant. Here's the Korean ginseng or Panax ginseng. Dr. Meyer did all the research, but basically it's anti-tumor, immune system function, anti-diabetic, enhanced liver function, blood pressure, stress, climactic disorder, sexual function, oxidative, all that stuff. But Korean ginseng really helped with all those different issues.
Isn't that kind of hard to come by though?
Nope. What do you mean hard to come by?
Well, the health store, we got to get it, right?
No, I get them out of the office from Editor.
Oh, okay.
No,
Okay. I used to try to find the regular.
I'm trying to get to the punchline, John.
Got it. Okay, excited.
So is that good for diabetics and stuff for them?
Yeah. Anything that's going to lower insulin is good, and then put with a fasting program, you're only going to amplify those effects. This is ginseng. Basically, It raised that brain-derived neurotrophic, should be protein. That one was important for brain regeneration. You don't have that, that's not high, you don't have brain regeneration and growth and recovery of the brain, but the Korean ginseng actually raised that up. So here it is right here. This Herbal Vital basically has the resveratrol, has the milk thistle, has the Korean ginseng, has the grapeseed, and also has the ginkgo. All those have insulin, immune system properties, and calorie restriction issues. All those. That's designed. That is basically designed. When you're getting results from fasting, you're actually saying, how am I going to live longer? That's what you're doing. So when you do a fast, you're automatically saying, hey, I want to live longer. It's that simple. All these products are basically for longevity. So this is the one I recommend if you're going to do a 5-2 intermittent fast, that this, 1 or 2 of these be added with your fast so you can further reduce calorie restriction and your body doesn't even know it. It's just reduces it 25%.
The 2 days or all 7?
All 7. Because if you're trying to lose weight quickly, quickly, that will knock at least 300-400 calories off a day. Plus you're reducing all those other calories. Plus you're, sleeping fasting. So that's what I recommend, and the research shows that you can get a huge advantage from that. Can we do the thing? Page? You want to draw these? What's that? Did everybody put in a thing, fill out a thing?
No. Do you want a free syrup?
And a couple other things over here.
So Dr. Krygier, you're thinking that with the every other day with fasting is definitely better than a 3-day fast?
It just depends on your situation. I'm just saying fasting in general is good for you. You got to decide where you're at in your health and what you're trying to accomplish. But this kind of 5 to 2 is more, should be kind of a lifestyle for people.
Right.
And we're so far from that.
That 3 days is pretty stressful.
The 3-day?
Yeah, it's pretty stressful. You get pretty hungry, you get a headache, your body like goes into shock, or
Right. Yeah. It's like anything. You're gonna adjust to it. And the devil's gonna be on your shoulder. That's just that. All right. Let's see. I want to give away. This is Charlie soap. Everybody familiar with Charlie soap? Charlie soap is. You have? Charlie soap is probably one of the best soaps for getting mildews, molds, bloodstains, tar out of your clothes. Clothes. So, plus it's very affordable. It's only 100. There's 100 washes just with this.
It works great for the oil massage.
Yeah.
For what?
There's a lot of different things,
Oil
but
in my massage.
yeah, it's basically not this one, but it's got the properties of a degreaser, and they used it on the textile machines in the 70s for a company that was a textile company when they had to clean the machines. So, and it's 99% biodegradable, and it works very, very well. My washing machine was the prettiest broke down washing machine. It was like beautiful, but the thing broke, the whole thing torqued, and I was like, the guy's like, this is the best looking washing machine I've ever seen in my life. Literally. But, I don't know what you call it, the tumbler or whatever, because it was a side loader. Yeah, the drum. It torqued, so, but he couldn't believe how clean it was. But that will clean all the residue, all that stuff. It's a very good product. Can you pull somebody out of there?
So you use it for regular laundry? You
Yeah.
don't have to have all
Nope.
the mildew and stuff? Okay.
No, regular laundry, but Jane Bryant. There you go, Jane. And then this one is, because it's so hot out, everybody's familiar with Cal-Amo? Cal-Amo is basically an acid salt, push the lymphatics, help you hold fluids, keep you cool. It's not going to raise your blood pressure, it's not going to do any of that stuff, but it's an acid salt, not sodium chloride or an alkaline salt. And I use it a lot, especially if you notice that your feet fill up with fluid, especially in this hot weather or humidity. So I use Cal-Amo, allergies, asthma, pH, arthritis, bursitis, neuritis. It's a good product as a pH balancer. It's not going to alkalinize you, it's going to acidify you. Think of that. So, Christine Schneider. What? No. And then this one's perfect amino. I already talked about it. 99% absorbable. So Jane's hearing. What else? Let me get two of Sarah's. And then as far as for Sarah Paul Miller, just keep this. And then one more on Sarah. Oh, Elaine Miller. You guys can come in as a couple. Other than that, does anybody have any questions? So I would go in the fasting book I would recommend. Basically, I just kind of summed it up, and then I would go on those sites. But it's pretty simple. Nobody should be able to walk out of here and not know how to do a simple 5-2 fast. Yeah.
The perfect aminos, it said on there that it was good for neurological and Alzheimer's and things like that. What does it do for it? Like, will it improve the situation?
I talked about that TOR pathway. Proteins help with that, especially the branched chain amino acids. But these are already pre-digested, so you're going to absorb it. Branched chain amino acids help with recovery, especially at night. So that would help with that. But as far as neurologically, you're asking for like a pathway or something, genetically?
Not really, it's just my mother, she needs help.
Well,
I'm just like with the
I would think, most old people, they live on tea and toast. So they're totally dysregulated as far as blood sugar.
Yeah,
So,
she has a blood sugar problem, for sure.
If she can't get protein out of her foods, or she has a bad appetite or something like that, then I'd recommend the Perfect Amino. It's usually one tablet every 40 pounds of body weight. So that's how we do that. Yeah.
So Herbavital would be the thing to take along with
the 5-2 intermittent fasting.
And
Yep.
if you're getting enough protein, you don't necessarily
Nope.
need the perfect amino still.
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah.
You sell this.
Yep. Yeah, all out of the office.
Do you recommend the Herbivito every day while you're fasting, and when you're having a regular day, or
Yeah.
when you're having fasting?
Because it's going to put your body in a fasting state, even though you're not fasting.
So you said you did this for 21 days? I'm sorry.
No.
Oh,
No, I didn't.
There was a 21-day,
That's the Purification Program. That's
Oh,
what we do.
okay.
Yeah.
so,
This is more, what can I do on my own?
Right.
How can I amplify those effects? And, and it's simplistic.
can you talk a little bit more about the purification though? I mean, in terms of what does that involve?
Well, purification involves cleaning out your liver, your gallbladder, kidneys, GI tract, all that stuff. That more sensitizes your receptors.
Yeah, so is
So
that,
that's
is that more
actually,
supplement based?
Yeah.
And just regular food and no fasting, or is it,
right.
or do you fast and you do this?
No, you just do regular foods. It's kind of, while you're cleaning out, you don't want to dump too much, you know what I
Right.
mean? So you're just kind of, you're just an idle.
Would you do one and then do the other, or would it matter?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, it's your choice.
This seems like more
If people
lifestyle.
if people can't pick, well, this is lifestyle, but if people can't pick good foods or they haven't done anything, I recommend a 21-day detox or purification program at least twice a year. Beginning of the spring and the end of the, end of the fall.
Can you go back to that slide that's got all the URLs for the,
Yeah. Oh, wrong way. No, it's the other way.
I think you were right.
Paige did a good job on the slides. He's whipping around.
So the only research to date has been done on the 5-2 diet fasting, not other kinds of fasts.
No, the first research I put up there was the one on, that was a 3-day fast before, that was a 3-day fast of no food before they went in for chemotherapy. Yeah. This was just more the most easy, the most workable. And still enjoying yourself. So, any other questions? Yes.
Can you incorporate exercise with those?
Yeah, you always should. I'm big on exercise, usually 2 to 3 days a week, and you're at 80 to 90% of your max for 20 to 30 minutes. So I like to get in there, get out of there, ride the bike at 80 or 90% of your max, 20, 30 minutes. A lot of people create, a lot of problems with exercising, it becomes their god. You got to exercise every single day, and it makes you feel better, but you can get addicted to that too. So there's no reason why you can't work out 2 to 3 days a week and do this. I mean, it's huge. You're supposed to do it with exercise. Yeah, you don't have to. People still got results. Okay. And weight resistance, I think, is the best. I don't think people do enough weight resistance, because if you're trying to regenerate and get your human growth hormone up and all that, you're trying to get muscle mass. That's I think it's a more important profile to get than just to lose weight. Okay? All right. Thank you for coming. There's some information on the side. If you have any questions, just let me know. And then these are for the thermoscans. There's 10% or there's $10 off on this if you use this VIP code. And those are being done next Wednesday. Yeah. Next Wednesday, 27th, out of the office in Farmington Hills. Okay? Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful week. If you want any additional information, you can go to my webpage, www.drkrygier.com.